Good morning. Welcome to Real Estate Tips and Tricks. My name is Aaron Adams. You are listening to News Talk 1430 WXNT. Today is September 29th and fall is upon us. For the next hour, we will be discussing all things real estate in the Indy metro market. We'll be discussing insurance for real estate. We have our resident insurance expert, Derek Lacey, in studio with us. Welcome, Derek.
Hey, how's it going today?
Great, and we also have my good friend and steady companion on the radio show, Doug Dale, on the radio show.
Thanks for having me, Aaron.
Always a pleasure. It's almost time to rename the show Real Estate Tips and Turned Tricks with Doug Dale and Aaron.
Well, I hope nobody's listening.
They aren't. So you can reach us at 866-612-0346 for any questions that you have and to get more information about any of the topics that we have on air today, as well as invest317.com is a great focal point for getting information about anything you heard on the show that you'd like to know more about, as well as dates for events that we have coming up. The mission of this show is to educate you, and it's to bring you the newest information and news about real estate investing so that you, as a potential real estate investor or current real estate investor, can continue to learn about and grow and stay on the edge of the forefront of this market. And so we try to bring experts to you who can be the most beneficial and who can enlighten you on trends that we see occurring. And that's why we're glad to have both Derek and Doug in studio with us today. For those of you who haven't heard the show, let me give you a little bit of background about myself. My father was originally from Indianapolis, but I was raised out in Las Vegas for the early part of my life, and then basically through 7th grade, and then I went to junior high and high school in New Jersey. I did my undergraduate degree in Utah, and while working on a master's degree in Southern California, I flipped my first investment property. I bought a duplex that I sold. I bought it for $100,000 that I sold a few months later and made $50,000. And from that point on, and since, I have been hooked on real estate investing. Since that time, I've purchased close to 1,800 properties in markets as diverse as Ely, Nevada, Pleasant Grove, Utah, Idaho Falls, Idaho, all over Southern California, and of course all over Marion County. I moved to Indianapolis, returned home, if you will, to capitalize on this market in 2004, and I can tell you that when I left Southern California, people thought I was nuts. So, Dan, we need to make sure, Dan's our fantastic producer, but we need to make sure we get a Beach Boys song in between the first and second segment.
Gnarly, man, gnarly.
Yeah. And when I told people that I was leaving Southern California for Central Indiana, a lot of them thought I was crazy. Now, those same investors and friends that I had realized that my dad was pretty smart when he gave me counsel to come out here, because Indianapolis is and continues to be and has been for the past couple of years the hottest real estate market in the country for cash flow property investing. And Doug and I collectively have purchased almost 3,000 properties in this market and travel the country teaching other investors about investing in cash flow properties, both to replace their current income and to as a source of retirement investing. And with that, Doug, why don't you give some of your background and share with people who may not have heard the show what it is that you do.
Sure. Like Aaron, my family is kind of from here, and I grew up in Westfield, just north of the city. Got into real estate investing, not unlike Aaron, through a seminar. One of my friends went to a seminar and convinced me to run We Buy Houses ad in the newspaper, and had some success with literally the first phone call I got, and it spoiled me. I assumed it was always that easy, so made 25 or 30 grand on that first flip over in Plainfield, and never looked back. Been buying and selling houses for going on a decade, and we just love what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And Derek, you are a third-generation business owner, an entrepreneur, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And your grandfather started your family insurance business in 1958, right?
That's correct. Yeah, we've been down in Greenwood, on the other side of town from Doug, down in Greenwood since 1958 at Main and Madison there.
And what is it that you do for investors?
Well, I mean, for investors, you got to look at it that you're starting your own business. I mean, that's exactly what you're doing. You're going into business for yourself at that point. So from the very obvious thing of insuring the houses themselves to looking at the financial plans, looking at the things that they are leaving behind when they go from being an investor or being an employee to becoming an investor.
Right, and you currently have over 5,000 customers, correct?
Well, and that number's moved up since then as well. So yeah.
And how many different markets are you guys doing insurance policies in?
At this point, we're in all U.S. markets. So if you could finally get that house in the Virgin Islands, I'd love to go and spend it.
I would love to get that house. I've been looking at Mitt Romney's inventory.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah, I think that does a good job of establishing both of your credibility. We appreciate you taking the time to be on the show today. Today we want to touch on a couple of topics that we think will be really valuable to you as current and hopefully future investors. And one of the things we want to talk about is a blog that came out earlier this month that I really liked because in very plain terms they went through 6 reasons why real estate trumps investing in stocks and mutual funds. I loved that because that's a common question that we get. Also, we like to have Derek in at least once a quarter to keep us updated on trends that he's seen in insurance that has value on a business level but also on a personal level because in one way or another, hopefully you have some type of insurance.
Yeah.
And so we're going to give him a chance to educate us, but Derek is also an entrepreneur. He also owns real estate, and so we like having him here to weigh in on whatever it is that we happen to be talking about that day. So the first thing I want to do is really kind of dig into this article about why real estate trumps investing stocks and mutual fund. And before I get into it, let me kind of give each of you a chance to weigh in on that. Doug?
Why real estate trumps investing in mutual funds and
stocks. Yeah.
Sure. The number one thing that I preferred and that I think, Aaron, you liked as well is the amount of control that an individual can have over the investment. Aaron and I always talk about the fact that you just, as an individual investor, especially somebody removed from Wall Street, somebody who lives in the Midwest, you have no idea what's going on inside those companies, how sound their financials are, or anything like that. When you're investing in real estate, you have that control. I mean, obviously there's risk with everything, but a lot of that risk is removed when you're controlling it and you understand. And like Aaron and I say, if the roof's leaking and I have to put money in to fix a roof, I understand what happened. When the the company goes bankrupt, a lot of times people are going, what happened?
Yeah, in fact, why don't you share with our audience the leadership conference you attended when you were in college and the CEO, Ken, that spoke to you?
Sure. This would have been in, I want to say 2001, 2002. It was one of those times that it was between my sophomore and junior year of college, and I had gone to a leadership conference in Snowbird, Utah. And they had a CEO come in, a prominent CEO, and I was, still in college, and I wasn't that fascinated with the business world at this point. But he was a very dynamic speaker, and he kept telling us how great his company was. And he had this company in Texas, and he said they just kept beating the earnings, just time in and time out. And all of the analysts were like, they can't believe that we keep doing it, but we just keep, beating the earnings. And everybody stood up and gave him a standing ovation, and then. I was like, wow, what a phenomenal business leader. When I have some money, I remember thinking, when I have some money, I'm going to put it in that company. You can really trust where they're headed. So a couple years later, I was reading the newspaper, and there was that CEO, Ken Lewis, and they were talking about Enron and how it had just fallen apart. So that right there sold me on the idea that investing in the stock market and in bonds and things like that is something that I perceived as much riskier than I think a lot of people realized it was at the time.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like you just said, you don't know what's going on inside that boardroom. I always use the example of Facebook. I have a Facebook account. It's on my phone. I check it usually right after I look at ESPN.com in the morning and right before I look at Google News. And, 100 million Americans have Facebook accounts. It's very popular. It seems to not have any viable competitors, and even though some have popped up, they quickly get destroyed, it seems like with Google+. but the stock price is half of what it was when they had their IPO this year. I don't understand that. It seems like a great product. It seems like a company that should make a ton of money. I'm sure they do. And why is their stock price half of what it was? Now, I've read articles attempting to explain that, but at the end of the day, you never really know what it is that moves stocks, although sometimes you can see things that move that, and you never really know what's going on inside that company and the decision that's being made and what was going on at Enron right before it went under.
He seemed like a great guy.
Yeah. So, Derek, what's your take on real estate versus stocks and mutual funds?
Well, real estate, the main thing with real estate is it's the one, it's like a high dividend stock. I mean, it's the one thing where you own the asset, but then it keeps paying you monthly. I mean, how much better can it get than that, other than, of course, the insurance guy is going to bring up that it's a completely insurable asset that you have, too. I mean, General Motors, everybody that had their stock, you couldn't buy insurance on it. Well, you could, but that's what brought AIG down, was that type of insurance policy.
Wow, what an insightful comment. I've never thought about that analogy, but that's such a good point.
Yeah, no, certainly. It's one of those things that you just have to look at, that you got this dividend-paying stock, you've got it fully insured, now you can just go sit on that beach in the Virgin Islands at your new house that you're buying and have a good time.
You know what? We do a monthly seminar, and Derek spoke last week at the JW Marriott for us and instructed it. We appreciate you spending the time to do that, Derek. But at our next event, which is October 22nd, 23rd, I think you should start with that topic, because that's such a great point that you have a stock. If you directly compare it, it's like buying a stock and a dividend and then insuring the whole thing against any catastrophe.
Absolutely, because you can insure the asset and you can insure the rental income.
Well, we're off to the races. So coming up next, we're going to continue with the 6 reasons why real estate trumps investing in stocks and mutual funds. Derek, what's the website for your family business?
We're at myabi.com. That's MYABI, like AmericanBusinessInsurance.com.
Okay, and you can get information about Doug and I and our activities at invest317.com, or you can call us at 866-612-0346. My name is Aaron Adams. This is Real Estate Tips and Tricks, and you're listening to News Talk 1430, WXNT.